Let's be simple. Because to me, that's the purpose. This is about committing to your purpose. You've heard wonderful things, committing to change, sustaining that commitment. And because it's about simplicity, once you can sustain your own commitment, you help others sustain their commitment. In fact, everything, and you can tell from what Glenn said too, is understanding yourself primarily and then passing that on with your experience. So because I want to be simple today, and I've given up PowerPoint also, if you were in the room yesterday afternoon, you knew what that refers to. I thought, well, let's just have you and me. Let's just do this, you and me. And the me part of it is all the messages, the thoughts, the musings, the reminders I've come across in all these past years about why people do what they do. And I thought, all right, in fact, I'm going to be a messenger today. And the first message I have for you is that I'm going to be saying things that you think, I know that, I've heard of that before. Isn't that always the way? Well, I'm here to remind you of those things because sometimes we forget them and we don't bring them into our lives. So it's about looking at simple messages, simplicity itself. What I'm going to speak to you about today is the role of courage, leading the change, and handling fatigue and cynicism, which will pop up all over the place, as you know. And because this is simple, and I've made a few notes, from time to time I'm going to look at my bits of paper and just read things out to you, discuss things with you. Know yourself so you can know other people. First thing I'd like you to do, you've been thinking about what Glenn said so wonderfully and what you heard yesterday perhaps, and you think there's been at least one thing that I'd like to implement in my life and at work. One thing. Wouldn't that be good? I've got a purpose here. So I'd like you to think about that and the benefits. Think of 2 or 3 benefits, if you can, of that. And I'd like you to discuss that just for 60 seconds. We'll just be quick the way that Glenn was too. With the people, somebody sitting nearby, one thing you'd like to implement when you get back to work so that you're sustaining your commitment to some of these wonderful things that you've heard. And 2 or 3 benefits of that. So off you go, one at a time, and then swap over. People around you, maybe what they are going to do, and I can still see people doing, this is great. Maybe what they're committed to do is similar to what you're committed to do. That's good, that's great. And they might be able to help you in the doing of it, but it's just the beginning of it, isn't it? So you've decided on something and you think, all right, now what comes next? What comes next? All right, let's give simplicity a go. I'm going to sit down. And the reason I have this stool here on the dais is to say to you, sometimes with your staff, with your friends, you need to sit down and just talk. That's why I gave up the PowerPoint and the technology to some extent too. I thought, let's get back to who we really are. So sometimes I'll sit down and sometimes I'll stand up. This is good, this is good. So here you are, you've made a commitment to yourself. You want to follow through on some idea you've heard this morning or yesterday. So the first suggestion, of course, this is common sense, is that you think, all right, what else do I need to know? How can I go deeper into this? Is there somebody else I can speak to about this too? Because on your own, it's hard. With somebody else, it's a bit easier because somebody else is going to be doing the same things that you're going to be doing. So this is where courage, commitment and perseverance come in. And that word courage is one of my favourites. I don't know how you feel about courage. Scary for some people, because having courage is being vulnerable. Ooh, some people don't like that. I've got past that. In fact, the fact that I can just sit here like this shows you I've got past that. And I've got to encourage you, encourage, isn't that a beautiful word? part of courage, encourage you to sometimes go out of your comfort zone and be vulnerable, because the best things happen with that. One of my favourite quotes is, life really begins at the end of your comfort zone. Life really begins at the end of our comfort zones. Wow. Wow. So, courage, commitment, perseverance. Have you got courage? Can you think of some, you won't be telling anybody, this is just in your own mind. Can you think of some times when you had to show courage? I mean, I can think of 3, 4, 5 things just like that, when it's been big stuff. I didn't know I'd have to face these things. Oh my God. If I'd known, I would have run away or thought, oh, I think I'll have a different life than this. But you get through it. It takes a while. And you look back and you've learnt from that. So to implement change, to be committed to sustaining these ideas that you've got, is going to take a little bit of courage. Let's get down to it. The role of courage, one of the best things I can ever say to you is, once you decide that you've got an idea, a plot, you know where you're going, you're taking a different path than most people, here's the tip. Hold your nerve. Hold your nerve, hold your nerve. And if you have to say that to yourself in the dark of the night 3 times or more over, hold your nerve, that will give you that strength. You need to hold your nerve. Because when you're implementing things, you're really bringing into power your left and right brain. You know that? You know about your left and right brain, don't you? And excuse me a minute, because when I'm saying my left brain, that looks right to you, but you know what I'm doing here. And a lot of us live in our left brain because we're very analytical and logical. We make lists, and this is how we write, this is how we speak, and this is how it is. And some of us are very right brain, and they have problems with a few things that are logical because it's creative and it's beautiful and it's visual and spatial and all of those things. I have a feeling that the most sizzly days, the most magical days, is when we combine left and right brain. Wow, wow. Have you ever had some days where you think, oh, this is so good? When that happens in the future, stop for a moment and think about, hey, I bet this is my right and left brain going together. Because you've thought of something clever, creative, and you see a logical process too. So I often look at when I'm happiest, and it's when I've got both of those things going on. Now, I have a little rule that I've worked out as far as courage is concerned and taking charge of things. And I call it the FFC rule. The FFC rule. And this is what it is. Be firm on the ends, flexible on the means, completely flexible. So firm on the ends, that's the F. Completely flexible on the means, that's the second F. And clever along the way. Firm on the ends, completely flexible on the means, and clever along the way. You may have to compromise, of course, but don't change the essence of what you want to do. FFC, firm on the ends. You've got a vision. Completely flexible along the way, and the means, and clever as you go along. Sometimes, I've got to say this too, because once you leave this conference, Peter, is there anything I can do about this? But you can hear me anyway when it drops, can't you? So, Peter, it's all right, thank you. Oh, right. When you leave this conference, fear is going to come in, because here you are thinking, just straighten it, tighten it. Male fingers, good. Thank you. Thanks. When you leave the conference, you're going to think, yes, I'm so excited, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. However, then the doubts, sometimes the fears come in too, and even disillusionment. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Well, I don't know, maybe it wasn't so good. And you're giving up on your dream. Don't give up on the courage, don't give up on the dream. Sustain your commitment, but find a way to do it. So as I said before, you do more research, you speak to people and you think, all right, the way to do it, you think of a logical plan. Get your left brain going. You've got a logical plan to what steps have to be taken. But sometimes fear and scary comes into it. So what I do with scary is I say, righto, scary, come over here, sit down with me. Pull up a chair, let's have a cup of coffee. Let's talk about scary and what you mean. It's the acknowledgement, isn't it? When you acknowledge fears and everything else that's going on like that, it's better. So talk to scary as a person, personalise this thing called fear, and say, draw up a chair, sit down with me. Would you like a cup of coffee? Do you take sugar in your coffee? Do you like it a bit sweet, the scariness, or not? And really important, I feel, to be part of the flexible bit is to give your people you work with and yourself handrails along the way. This is part of the means of sustaining your commitment and introducing and implementing these things. So give yourself some handrails. And you know what people are like when they've got handrails? They don't go rushing off. They're careful. One step at a time. Give yourself the handrails, the one step at a time information, actions, knowledge, so that you can get there. If you present something to a group of people without handrails, you're not being flexible in the middle. And they might come up with something, but at least you can see what's happening. I loved Glenn's circle of concern. I like all of it, but the circle of concern was interesting, wasn't it? So all of those things, if you look at your little bit of paper that he's got you to construct, you'll see tips along the way for you when you're speaking with people and this circle of concern. So that's when your handrails are going to become really important. Decide you are a person who has courage. Just make that decision. So be vulnerable, use your left brain, and maybe you'll be like me and you have something tangible to help you. I call my horse Hero. I've had him for quite a while, and I flew from Sydney to here yesterday. Wrapped him up in bubble wrap, but his ear got a bit damaged. And I think, oh, well, I can fix that. Isn't life like that? You can have a little bit of damage, but it's all right. And I look at him and I think, now this is pretty good. You can look at him too. He has his head up. Excuse me. He has his head up. He has courage. I need a glass of water. Just a little bit, we're fine. And do you see, he's got one foot in the air. Can you see that? He's ready. He's ready to move off. Thank you so much. And when I look at Hero, I think, he's burnished. Can you see that this is a goldy gilt colour? Can you see that? Anybody that's done any gilding will know that you start with a bit of red, and have a look at him later so you can see what I'm saying to you here. He's got some red as the background, and red in the psychology of colour is about energy and action. And then that gold has come over the top. He's very burnished. So to me, he's like not quite a good luck charm, because what's a hero? I mean, it's just, maybe good luck will come with it, but it's giving you strength. So have a look at him. He's mine. I love the fact that he's got the saddle. That means he doesn't do things on his own. He has somebody there with him sometimes, climbing on the back. He's got cracks. I've got cracks. He's got his ear that's a bit broken. I'll fix that. So just realise that as a hero, as a courageous person, you'll get all these bumps in life. But the colour I love, it's burnished. I met an elderly woman many years ago, lovely woman, who was crippled with arthritis, bent over with osteoporosis, tiny little thing, she'd shrunk, but she had the greatest smile and the greatest words. And she said to me one day, "Lynn, do you know how you can pick the most burnished people in life?" And I've never thought of that before. Since then, burnished has become one of my favourite words. Have you got favourite words that you like to use? Well, burnished is one of mine now. Lynn, do you know how you can pick the most burnished people in life? They're the ones that have been through the most fires. The most burnished people in life are the ones that have been through the most fires. I've been through fires. You've been through fires. And aren't we better for it? You think about who you are and you think, oh my God, I'm glad I didn't know that was coming up, but now I understand. Now, I can't tell you enough about, once you know yourself and understand the pain and the difficulties that you will face, that's when you can embrace these other people you work with, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whatever it is, and people, workmates. Be burnished. It makes such a difference. Leading the change. See, I could have started with, this is what a leader does. And I thought, no, I've got to tell you about being courageous first. So now you've decided that you're going to have the courage, implement some of these new ideas, but let's see about leading the change. So many people believe that there are 5 main attributes that a good leader has. And before I tell you those, let me stress to you that being a leader has nothing to do with prestige, rank, popularity. It has everything to do with responsibility and consistency. Everything to do with responsibility and consistency. Don't you feel like that as a parent too? Or a parent to the kids that you teach even? It's about responsibility and consistency and being consistently predictable in that way. Here are the 5 values, 5 qualities that people say good leaders have. I'll say them a couple of times. We'll go back over them a bit. Leaders have a clear vision. All right, see the big picture. It's very right brain, in fact. Clear vision. And they have persistence to get there. That's all part of number 1. Clear vision, persistence to get there. Point number 2, they feel a passion for what they are doing. And they can tell others about that. They can communicate this passion. They're so excited about it. Point number 3, they exude integrity. Oh, that's so important. Because you know from their ethics and their moral values that you can believe in these people. They have integrity. And it's made up of self-knowledge and deep-seated maturity gained through experience. That's the 3rd one. I'll be going back through these if you miss any. The 4th one, they're able to earn the trust of others. They earn the trust of other people. And the 5th one, they have curiosity. They ask questions. And they're willing to take risks. Willing to take risks. Let me go back through the 5 again in case you're writing them down, you've missed out on something. And while I'm saying them, I think too, hey, am I missing 1 or 2 of these myself? Are they as good as they could be for me? Leaders have a clear vision of where they want to go and persistence to get there. That's number 1. Number 2, have a passion for what they do and can communicate that. They exude integrity. That's made up of good ethics and deep-seated maturity. 4, they earn the trust of others. And 5, they have curiosity and ask questions and are willing to take risks and try new things. Why don't you just spend 10 seconds speaking to somebody next to you and saying, I think I'm a bit weak on one of those. Which one are you weakest on? Which one are you weakest on? Now you've identified what you think is a difficulty for you, do something about it. You know, life to me is filled with these opportunities to make the plans and to spread the sense, hey, isn't it all about being the best that you can be? That's what it's about. And you think, all right, I'm a teacher. I used to be a teacher. I think somebody said to me yesterday, every person that's come to speak to you has been a teacher at some stage. Well, I used to be a high school teacher. And I know that being the best that I could be, and today being the best I can be, is doing all those things. And what an interesting person it is to meet. When you meet somebody that has, even in ordinary life, maybe not in teaching, a clear vision, has passion, has good ethics, you trust them. And you think, hey, they take risks. Hey, this is exciting. Maybe I should be more like that. I encourage you. I really encourage you. And so as this person who's leading change, you have to exude, project confidence. Be able to explain, be positive about your achievements in this new plan and their achievements. At all times, you've got to be positive about them. And can I say to you, I did an interesting facilitation job a couple of years ago with the University of Melbourne, and they had very successful, interesting people that came along, and they were talking about change. And what came out of all of that for me that I remember particularly well was that they said, you've got to speak one-on-one to people. Don't just email. Don't just get on the phone, although the phone is a bit better, excuse me, than emailing, because at least you can hear voice tone. But emails, you've had this experience, and I have too. You think you're writing it with a certain tone and quality, and they don't get that. They're just words after all. So at some stage, you're going to have to be one-on-one with people. Find out what the rest of their life is about. It's not just about work. And then you've got something to talk to them about. I said to you in the beginning, this is simple stuff I'm telling you. But let's get back to simplicity. This is about communication. One-on-one is excellent. Personal contact is the best. Praise those people about some positive communication skills that they have. You should be able to say to every person that you know even, hey, you're so good at this. Doesn't it go well when you do that? I love your laugh. It's, whatever it is. And you know what that is too? We're going to get to ego management shortly, but that's managing your ego too. Because when you think of others, and not just yourself all the time, wow, powerful, powerful. Right, so be optimistic, clear and logical. This is going to work. I've given you handrails. You have the FFC rule in your mind. You can tell them about that too if you want. And this is how we progress. And here's the clue that's very important in all things in teaching and in work. Be personally, diligently professional all day, every day. Professional, diligently professional all day, every day. Let me just tell you something. I've always been fascinated by colour, body language, image, all those things. And I'll give you a few clues. When you're speaking to some of the people in your staff room or wherever you are, you need to realise that they're looking at you very closely. Very closely. Can I suggest that what you wear, as far as colour is concerned, is a factor that you need to think of. When you've got a meeting, think of this. I'm mucking up the sound. Dark colours, black, darkest navy, the most authoritative colours that you can ever wear and present to people. Light colours at the end of the spectrum are the most friendly and inviting. Dark is authority, light colours are friendly. What I've got on today, because I knew I was speaking to you, especially at the top, the bottom doesn't matter so much, is medium. So I'm doing a mix of authority, because I want you to believe in what I'm telling you, and friendliness. And you need to think about the audience that you have. And if you always go dark, and I'm looking around the room here at some of the men, it's easy, dark suits, but luckily Glenn hasn't got a white shirt on today, he's got a blue shirt. It's blue, isn't it? Yeah. That's good. Blue is more friendly than white, because that black and white that a man will have, his interview suit, if you like, dark and a colourful tie, is the most authoritative, aloof, strong thing that you can do. Distancing. But it says, hey, I'm powerful. If you turn up, women, I'm talking to you especially, because men hardly ever do this one, in pastels, a lot of the time, you may have problems because it's all very friendly and approachable. That's lovely. But if you're trying to say something strong, this is difficult. So think of the colours. Think also that all the research I've ever seen says that a tailored outfit will give you a bit more power than something much more casual. But I know these days we're much more casual, but on the days when you really want to say something, sell an idea to people that, hey, this is good, get a bit more tailored and structured. Always be well-groomed. And women, please don't be too sexy. And by sexy, I mean don't show too much skin. Now, you can show a bit of skin here, of course, but just don't do the cleavage bit, please. You're the role model. And I don't want all your wonderful ideas to go out the window because, oh, no, look at her. Now, Glenn, I heard you speak years ago, and you said something to me, or not to me, but to the audience, where, and I've stayed in my mind ever since, so I want to pass it on with, and maybe I'm saying it the wrong way. Here we go. Glenn has spoken about mountain and river. Now, and I've interpreted this in maybe a different way than he does. Can I say in the way that you speak, now look, body language, this is being professionally diligent about everything. In your body language, there are times when you have to be more mountain-like. Still, like a rock, like a mountain. Still. And usually your sentences are short, your ideas are succinct, and it's pretty left brain, actually, and you say it. And there are other times, because you don't want to be like that all the time, other times you'll be more river-like. And you'll wander, you might even wander a bit. And you'll probably be a little bit long-winded, and you might tell a few stories, and you might use your hands a bit more, and that's great too. But if you know in your mind that you're inclined to be a bit more, you're inclined to be river a lot of the time, or mountain a lot of the time, mix it, mix it. This is this left and right brain sizzle. You've got to get the magic. Because realise that to sell a point, an idea, a concept, it could be you need the river. Let me take you on this little story. Let me take you down the path of this. You know, you'll use all your visual expression, the pictures, but when you have to say something strong, come back to being a mountain. And is that, Glenn, what you used to say, or I've just taken that to my own little extreme?
No, that's spot on. I mean, some teachers are mountains only, and other teachers river around the room, and it's a good mix.
You've got to mix it. So just realise that you can use this information for your own power. And if you're at home and you've got to tell the kids to do something, right? I loved Glenn's idea about when you tell the teenager to clean up their room or something, you sing the song. That's river. You know, that's not mountain. You know, if you don't clean it up, I'm going, you know, all this, and then I'm going to tell your friends. Yeah, you get a bit of mountain in there. Use that power, because this is being professional. It's about time you realise that the look of you, the sound of you is terribly important. And while you're about it, I want to tell you one of the most powerful things I can say about your body language. There are many things, but just this one for today. Keep your hands away from your face and your hair. Slap your hands. You can do this. You might sometimes do this, but for goodness sake, you don't realise what you're doing. Nervousness will make you go. It takes away your power. Keep your hands still. Practice in front of a mirror, on your own, standing still, having your hands still, and then just speaking. And while I'm at it, how about your language? You've got this concept that you want to sustain your commitment with all these people. You've got to be able to explain it. So some of the people in your organisation won't get the jargon. They won't understand the imperatives about this, that and the other. So it's about time you made it very simple. You have to be able to make your message so simple that when these people and you go home, you can explain it very simply to your family without all the jargon that all the other teachers understand. No. We'll make it simple. And what I've realised is that when you're talking about benefits or explanations about things, odd numbers are best. You do 1, or you do 3, or you do 5. 7's far too many. Sometimes 5's too many. 3 is good. 3 is good. So now I'd like you to think, and you're going to speak to somebody, this favourite new friend on your table, in a moment, about the one thing that you said before that you'd like to implement. Break it down into simplistic language. And you might have just 1 benefit, but 3 benefits would be good because you've thought of benefits already. Let's get into simple language and not many consonants in your words. You know, Winston Churchill was the one that always said, keep it simple and keep it really simple, and he used to cut back on the consonants. It's like 1 or 2 or 3 consonants in a word is enough. Don't get complicated. So see now if you can very simply explain what it is that you want to implement and the benefits so that these people could take it home and say to their family, guess what? This is what I want to do. Simplicity is difficult. If you haven't quite succeeded in getting it to very simple words, just in the back of your mind you think, I'm going to explain this to staff and management, and I want them to be able to go home and say to their partners and their kids, guess what? We've got this new idea, and it's this. So the kids and the partners and other friends don't say, oh, but I don't get that. What do you mean? You've got to cull all that excessive verbiage that we go on with and come down to simplicity. And really, it comes down to an ego management thing, I find, in many ways. This is managing your own ego. Because some people like to use the long words to show off. You know that. Or they think, oh, I can't think of anything simple, I'll just say it like that because that's what I heard and that'll do, and what'll they think of me? In the last couple of years, I've thought about ego management of my own. Hey, having an ego is healthy, but sometimes it can get out of hand. Haven't you got people that you've worked with or you know and you think, oh my God, I wish they'd stop talking about themselves. And every time I say something, they're trying to one-up me on something or they're interrupting me and whatever. And so I've been practising for a couple of years to keep my mouth closed sometimes. It doesn't mean that I'm downtrodden, but it means that instead of interrupting and saying, yes, well, I know about that too, I just listen. Hey, listening is one of your simplest techniques. This is what this is about. And when you're committing to something, you have to be prepared to listen to what the others are going to say. So with ego management, first you learn your own ego management and listen to when you interrupt people and what you say on the phone and what you're typing in your emails. Is that really necessary? Just cut that out. If they really want to know who you are, they'll discover who you are because you're diligently professional. Plan ego management of other people. It's very real. You're going to have to do it. Now, this will depend on your relationship to them and your knowledge of them as well. And you've got to talk to them, as I said before, not just on email, and tell them about the benefits and also how they can be involved. Now, that's the best thing you can do. Get their egos involved in your plan. Involve them in your plan. Be positive about the achievements that are going on. Be positive about their achievements. And create formal, informal celebrations. This is all good. This is good. And one of my favourite thoughts at the moment is this one. Be consistent and fair, even when others are not. Be consistent and fair, even when others are not. To help you with that a bit, let me tell you about something that I've realised. You know, this is being the best you can be, isn't it, in simple terms? And that's what it's all about, simplicity anyway. I've decided that I have some shoulder-sitting friends. We all have shoulder-sitting friends. I've identified 5 of them. I bet there are 25. And you can think about your shoulder-sitting friends. And these shoulder-sitting friends that I've identified are honour, grace, what a beautiful word, love, simplicity and courage. Honour, grace, love, simplicity and courage. And I've got to tell you, the more I've thought about this, the more I've realised that they sit on my shoulder and they whisper in my ear and sometimes into my heart. And if I think, I'll just brush them off, like get rid of dandruff and spare hair on my shoulders, it doesn't work. The shoulder-sitting friends are always going to be with you. So use them and listen to them, and this is your intuition. So, as I said, I've identified honour and grace, no particular order, honour, grace, love, simplicity and courage. Think of some others. What else could we have? Honesty, great. What else? Faith, oh yeah, I love that one. See, you could have 10, 12, but I've just stuck to 5. And what I do, because I've come to this revelation, I think I better listen to you, all right, because these friends show you how to be the best that you can be. They manage your ego. It's about honour. Stop showing off. Where's grace in your life, in your conversations? Oh. Every week I send out an email to many people in Australia and overseas. It's free. And it just consists of a few lines. And I get honour and grace and love and simplicity and courage involved in that a little bit too, because sometimes they give me a thought and I think, right, I better send that off. Just a few lines, and I call it home at last. Because to me, home at last, I love that phrase, because home at last isn't just about your house. It's coming home to you. It's a metaphor for all sorts of wonderful things, on your behaviour, your communication, your relationships, home at last. So if you'd like to be on my Home at Last postcard list, tell me later and give me your email address and I'll put you on. It's all free. And anyway, what you can do if you want to see what I'm doing with courage and simplicity occasionally, not every week. Sometimes I just talk about colour psychology and decorating your house, but if you know me at all, and you don't, I'm a bit quirky. I think you might know that. I'm a bit quirky and I'll do a few little unusual things. So everything is symbolism for me. So have a look at my website and I'll explain to you in a few moments about the website. But you can just have a look and you'll see some past Home at Last postcards are there. I'm up to number 47, once a week. And it's been interesting to see what feedback I get. So let's have a look at that. They help you to be the best you can be. All right, how about we look at handling fatigue and cynicism? Because this is going to come up. For you and for them. Fatigue. All right, so from time to time, the fatigue bit, you've got to revisit your initial enthusiasm. Let's revisit that. Revisit it. Come back to today and yesterday and think, oh, that was so great. You've made good notes, I hope. You've talked to some other people about these things too. And can I say that the best way I've ever found to handle fatigue and cynicism, especially fatigue, is find the optimists in your group and the oxygen. Find the optimists and the oxygen. Treasure that. Never forget that. And all that optimism and that oxygen will drown out all that background noise of cynicism, fatigue, all of that. Because they'll take up the cudgel for you. They'll say, hey, but this is what we can do. So you've got to have other people involved. It's not just you. And take a break sometimes and refresh. And you think, all right, I've done it like this. But remember I said the FFC rule, you want your firm on the end result, but you're flexible. Maybe we've got to do a bit of this. But you're going to be clever along the way. And recognise that change affects everybody differently. Differently. Not the way that you will be affected. And accept that a certain percentage of people will never get it. Don't feel disappointed, but make sure that the majority get it. Now let me read this to you about cynicism. You know what cynicism is. It's in yourself, it's in other people. Cynicism always bubbles up. If it gets momentum, it can escalate. So don't accept cynicism. Ignore it and move the conversation to something positive about the change. You think, oh, I can't do that. You can. You ignore, when somebody says, oh, but we've tried that before, it didn't work, and oh, that's too much work, and I haven't got time. You say, you move the conversation. You don't stand there absorbing all this, getting all this negativity washing over you like a huge wave, a tsunami coming at you. You say, you talk about something positive, change the conversation, and you start talking to the people that are with you. I've always thought that there are suckers in life. Do you know, when sometimes you get up in the morning, you're feeling wonderful, great, and you go to work and you're feeling optimistic, and somebody comes and says to you, oh, you never guess what's happened, and oh, on the way to work, and oh, it's a rainy day, and oh, and these are the suckers, and they're sucking out of you. They're going, all that optimism that you started the day with. What do you do about these suckers? You don't hang around them. What are you doing? Taking all this stuff. I've seen people who start off well and they stand there for 10 minutes letting these people say, you never guess what happened to me yesterday and last night, and oh, and I don't know how I'm going to do all this. Well, you've got to move away. They're sucking it out of you. Don't let them do that. Move off. And so the suckers are the cynics. So when it bubbles up, you're going to have your flexible handrails in there and be on track. Know what you're doing and talk to the people that have got the oxygen, who are the optimists too. You've got to manage their egos. Now for you as a leader, let me just give you a few points. Always stand in a place of respect and kindness. Always stand in a place of respect and kindness. Be the best you can be. And that's where these shoulder-sitting friends will come in. They'll nag you. If you let them, you say, I'm not really crazy. It's just like, I think, this is intuition. This is good stuff. Honor, what would you do now? Simplicity, what would you say now? Grace. How can I have more of that? Love. Yeah, how can I do that? It'll take you out of you and into the world. It's wonderful. You have to create an atmosphere where everybody is honoured. Everybody needs to be honoured. And so you've got to be appreciative of their skills, and in front of others honour them too, because we all like that. And one-to-one you honour them too. And here's a thought. Reach for connection, not isolation. Reach for connection, not isolation. Because otherwise, you can get all upset, and if in your left brain way you'll say, but this is such a good idea, and why don't they follow me, and I don't know, it's not fair, and you'll lose it then. Reach for connection, not isolation. And sometimes, and this is a really good tip, you've got to take advice from other people who have done it. Because sometimes there's this divide between whether you're going to have decisive leadership or consultative leadership. That's the versus thing. Decisive leadership, this is it, mountain. Consultative leadership, a bit more river. And you've got to be able to swing backwards and forwards. Go and talk to somebody who's done it successfully and say, what did you do? How did you do it? I've got outside on the registration desk for all of you a copy of a little book I wrote. It's a very little book. It's called A Beautiful Day. And this, I'm thinking, will help you. It's a gift. In it is my website address, so you can look that up if you want to look up these Home at Last postcards. And I feel with this, butterflies, well, that's all about metamorphosis, isn't it? That there's still magic in it. And, you know, with all these sort of little books, you say, what do I need to know? And you think, what do I need to know? And you open up and blow me down, there it is. The only decision there is, once you've got to the page, is, well, I take the left-hand page or the right-hand page. So I think there's still magic. I thought when it was written, and then it was edited, and then it was printed, and it was published, that a lot of that magic would go, but they tell me the magic's still there. So there'll be a copy for each one of you outside on the registration desk. Take that with you. A beautiful day, I love the words. So, let me now sort of summarise a bit what we've done. We've looked at the role of courage. We've looked at leading the change. We've looked at handling fatigue and cynicism. Sustaining your commitment with all those things and being vulnerable is real life. It's real life for you. It's a big ask. It's real life. Take your chances. Have the courage. I have some closing thoughts for you. It's not from the known, but the unknown that creativity and inventiveness are born. Turn away from the predictable and the cliche. Brave the void where the darkness is greatest. Trust the quiet. Find the stillness. Feel the calm. Then steadily think, speak, and move as if you were led. Behave as if your vision is clear. Anticipate the emotional rush that will come with your triumph. It's truly the way to sustain your commitment. Thank you very much. Thank you.